under the suits. At least, I imagine it's nice. I would agree with Mark that Barclay Lucas was not the most logical subject of a Kira crush. There was a gaping chasm between him and my normal type. Think dreadlocks, eyelids half-masked after smoking too much weed, questionable personal hygiene. But the thing about Barclay was that even if his party did support cuts to legal aid, housing benefit, and didn't fully support unions, the times I'd heard him speak on Question Time, or in the Houses of Parliament, yes, I might be a bit of a flake, but that doesn't mean I don't like to get my politics on of an evening. He had this fire in his eyes, this passion for change. Despite being a Tory, he still seemed to be bent on improving social inequality. And he was the driving force behind the energy revolution, which he believed would benefit the most disadvantaged in society and the environment. After nuclear fusion producing clean energy for the national grid became a real possibility 2 years ago, some politicians have been dragging their feet. Barclay was certainly not. And the way he spoke about it, the intense focus and absolute clarity of his words, it was impossible not to believe him. It was impossible not to believe that, yes, Barclay Lucas could save this country. In fact, forget the country. Barclay Lucas could save the world. Well, he's gone now, so can you please... Mark made another lunge for the remote, but when he was within reaching distance, I smirked, leaned forward, and licked his face. He had this weird thing about germs. He wouldn't eat a pasty after it had fallen onto the canteen floor, not even when it was within the 5-second rule. Fussy, wasteful weirdo. "Oh," he said, recoiling in horror. "You are so gross. I do not want girl cooties, thank you very much. Plenty of peeps would pay good money to have me lick their faces," I told him, before catching the locum consultant looking over at us in horror and giving him a cheeky one-eyebrow raise. He abruptly abandoned his cheese sandwich and made a dash for the nearest exit. "Try not to scare off the locums, Kira," Sandra said in a patient tone, shaking her head. "You know it's hard enough to get them in the first place, and he's one of the good ones." "He's a pussy is what he is," I muttered under my breath, snatching up the uneaten half of the cheese sandwich he'd left and shoving it into my mouth. "Come on, losers. Those willies and foofs out there aren't going to save themselves." "Actually, Kira, you're not doing the walk-in today," she said. "Prof's had to go to some type of emergency meeting. You're covering his HIV clinic." I smiled. It wasn't that I minded the bread-and-butter genitourinary medicine stuff, but once in a while it was good to actually get stuck into some difficult cases, and Prof's clinics were full of those. I sighed and sat back in my chair to look at the gaunt, scruffy, but surprisingly still handsome man in front of me. Surprisingly, because the skin of his face was red and flaky with seborrheic dermatitis. His cheeks were hollow and he wore a sullen, pissed-off expression. Why had I thought that tackling tricky cases would be a nice change of pace? This guy was just depressing. When I'd seen that his second name was Lucas, I'd felt like it was a cosmic sign of how well my day was going to go. I was very into cosmic signs. For me, daydreaming about a guy called Lucas and then seeing that same name on a set of notes in front of me was a good one. I was now realizing that my theory had some holes. "Mr. Lucas." "Henry," I said, noticing a flinch at the use of his first name, but still no attempt at actual eye contact. "Since your hospital admission with PCP, you've been on antiretrovirals for a good few months." Henry had had a dry cough for a long time, which he ignored until it became difficult for him to breathe. He was admitted to hospital a year ago, and his chest X-ray showed diffuse shadowing, suggesting pneumocystitis carinii pneumonia, or PCP, a marker of the immunosuppression associated with AIDS. An HIV test was requested in his first set of blood tests, and the result had been positive. The pneumonia was treated with antibiotics, and he was discharged with antiretroviral medication, but he'd missed 2 follow-ups in clinic since then. The one time he had actually attended, Prof had described him as having a flat effect, meaning he appeared emotionless. Prof had been